Alright, good afternoon everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan. Today we are going to look at bosses for the first inning for the past 2 years of the game. Kind of look at the ratings, look at kind of what they went, the route they went, position players, pitching, all that kind of stuff. We're going to look at some henchmen, and then at the end of the video we're going to get into who I think is going to be the first inning bosses for this year. Let's get into it. I am excited. We are damn near close to getting this game. Let's get into this. All right, so here we have MLB The Show 19. These are the henchmen before you reach the boss pack. In this one, they had 5. I believe the last year we only had 3. Even though these cards were 81s overall, there were a couple that were actually pretty damn good. This Johnny Ventures card I know was a stud. I actually want to look at his stats because I used him a lot to begin the year. Yeah, look at that. I mean, 29 in a 2/3 innings, and he has a .61 ERA. This guy was absolutely unhittable. I loved this card. Only used him in the beginning of the year. I mean, he wasn't 81, but this guy was a stud. So don't sleep on the henchmen. They are actually pretty good, especially if you got somebody that has a good swing or has a good pitch mix. Try them out. Okay, so they actually had 2 henchmen packs in 2019. I forgot about that. This one was a little bit better. I remember I took Nick Markakis. I actually wish that they had come back with that card last year. I was always a fan of Nick Markakis. I really wish that they had brought him back. And here we are at the first 3 bosses for 2019. We had Andruw Jones, who was new to the game. We had Goose Gossage, and we had Cy Young. Now, the ratings here, at least pitching-wise, 95 and 96, are much higher than they were last year. In 2019, they had actually come out with 99s in the 3rd inning program. In 2020, we didn't have 99s until the 5th inning, which I actually had enjoyed more. I like using lower ranked cards earlier in the year. I think it's part of the joy of building up your team, is that it takes a little bit longer to make your team better. So I hope that they stick with 2020's version more so than 2019. We're going to take a look at these cards here. Take a look at their attributes. Remember, it's the first inning. It's brand new in the game. They're not going to be the best ranked version of these cards. For this Andruw Jones, he had good power. He had very low contact. Yep, 67, 62, 106, 89. He had great fielding. Little bit of speed. He was a pretty solid card right off the bat. I remember he was the card that I picked. I did struggle with him a little bit. Yeah, I only hit 279 with him, but I used him for a long time. I think until I got Trout, I ended up using him. Goose Gossage, I never did have this card. We'll take a look at his stats here. So we had really solid hits per 9 and K per 9 at the beginning of the year. His control and walks per 9 were not exactly great. Home runs per 9 did play a part at this point in the series. However, they eliminated that shortly after. I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd inning that they actually took home runs per 9 out of the game. He was a great pitcher to begin the year. Then they had Cy Young, who realistically, he looks like a great card, but he's very hittable. Even in 2020, he was very hittable. Perhaps with control being a bigger issue this year, he'd be a better card. But with him, you're looking at really slow off speed or a really fast fastball. So if you can sit on one or the other, you have no problem picking up Cy Young. That is the first inning bosses for 2019. Let's hop over to 2020. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that World Series rewards and BR rewards typically follow the next year as a card that is easier to obtain. So a lot of the guys that were World Series rewards or BR rewards the year before in 2019 ended up being inning bosses in 2020. So keep that in mind. We'll kind of look at some of those guys. I know Juan Pierre is one that sticks out. Him and Adley Rutschman were the first World Series rewards. They were 91s overall. Personally, I'd like to see them. I want the Juan Pierre. He's one of my favorite cards from this past year, even though he had no power. I just love the guy, and I really want to use the card, so hopefully they make him easier to obtain this year rather than me having to spend a million steps to get him like I did. All right, so here we are with the first inning henchmen for 2020. Now, Brian Roberts, he was new to the game this year. A lot of people picked him. I think I actually picked Adam Dunn, but I didn't really use any of these cards. At the beginning of the year, this Brian Roberts card just didn't really thrill me with his power, which is funny because I was just talking about how much I like Juan Pierre. Tom Seaver, not a bad pitcher to begin the year with, especially if you're building your team. You don't have a lot of diamonds, shot buying packs. He'd be a good guy to pick. I didn't take him though. I never used him. I don't even really care for his 99 overall version. I did pick Adam Dunn. but even then, I never used it. First inning henchmen, if you have a lot of packs that you're going to be opening, especially if you have the pre-order versions, you might not need any of these guys. You can sell them early on and get 2,000 steps. It's going to be interesting to see what the market does this year, since there are new players on Xbox that don't really know how to use the market. We might see some historically low prices on some of these cards, which will be very interesting. The first couple of weeks of the market are going to be very interesting to watch. And here we have the first inning bosses from this past year. Todd Helton, brand new to the game. Roy Oswalt was a card I ended up liking, but I didn't get him until the very end when they did the 11th inning. And then Duke Snider. This Duke Snider card I never used at all. He was a very watered down version of his 99 from the year before, so I just didn't really care for him. He was very bad against lefties, so I kind of avoided this one. Roy Oswalt, good to start off. He had great control. His hits per 9 was kind of low. He had good mix of pitches. He really did. Fastball, sinker, curve, slider, and change. You can't ask for much better than that, especially when sinker was overpowered this year. Todd Helton was the guy that I went with. He had great contact, a little bit of power, good fielding. He was my first baseman for a long time there. Yep, 200 at-bats with him. I struggled with him, though. I will say, though, that this was back when I was using directional hitting. I actually didn't start using zone until like the second inning, I think. Second or third inning of this year. I had never really tried it. And quite frankly, if you're new to the game, zone is the only way to go. Anyways, it gives you an idea of what we've got. I much more prefer this version in 2020 due to the lower overalls. Not necessarily because the position players are lower, they're still a 91. You had Andrew Jones, who was a 91. You had Todd Helton, who's a 91. Realistically, we're probably getting 91s as our overalls for our position players. Hopefully, 93 is kind of what we're looking at for starting pitchers. With that, let's hop in here to rank season real quick. So if we're looking at World Series rewards, you had Juan Pierre and Adley Rutschman were the first season. Rogers Hornsby and Zach Britton were the second, along with Tino Martinez and Ken Griffey Jr. in the third. Realistically, I wouldn't be mad if the Zach Britton was one of the first inning bosses. Realistically, this card was very good early on in the year. If they wanted to have a 93 and they wanted to give you a relief pitcher, that would be one that I'd actually like to see. His only problem is that he's basically a two-pitch pitcher. He's got 3 pitches that come in the same speed, and he's got a slider. However, as a lefty, that's pretty damn deadly. Let's hop in to who I think we will have as the first inning bosses this year. All right, so first up, I think we are going to have Alfonso Soriano. So in 2002, he had 39 home runs, 102 RBIs, 41 stolen bases, and hit 300. That's an absolute stud. I think that would warrant a card that is higher than a 92. So realistically, I could see them going with a later version of Alfonso Soriano. But I guess we'll kind of see. Later on in his career, his average dipped quite a bit. So I could see like a 2010 version where he hit 258 with 24 home runs, only had 5 stolen bases. First inning will not be the best Alfonso Soriano that we get, but I do think that we get him as he is the first new legend that they revealed. Typically, they go with one of those guys as a first inning boss. Second up is going to be a little bit controversial. I'm going to go with Lee Smith. Now, this is a card that a lot of people enjoy, but every time he's released, it is late in the year, and he isn't used as much as he could be. As you saw, the 93 from last year, the 95 and 96 for pitchers the year before, they're kind of jumping around with pitchers. They are using relievers, they are using starters. I think that they go with a reliever more so than a starter. A lot of people are saying Fernando Valenzuela, who I would enjoy. I think his high would be about a 96 overall. With these cards being prestigiable, I could see a Fernando Valenzuela, but they haven't done a first inning yet where every card was a brand new card. So I'm going to go with somebody that we've had in the game before, a card that a lot of people have liked, because you want to have a card that's going to balance out the 3 picks. You don't want to have just one card in there that everyone is going to take. You got to balance them out a little bit. I think a lot of people would go for Lee Smith. He's got a good pitch mix, and I think he is a card that is better suited for early in the year compared to later in the year. All right, and the third boss here is going to be Prince Fielder. Now, this is a card that is going to have a lot of power. He's going to have some pretty damn good contact, decent fielding, and decent speed. This will not be his best version either. that'll be 99 easily. He was an absolute stud when he was playing before he got hurt. But this version, 2009 All-Star version, he did win the Home Run Derby that year. So it'd be interesting if they gave him quite a bit of power. With it being a first inning, though, I don't see too much power, maybe 99 tops. Typically, they don't go too high with that right off the bat. They try and stay under the 100 rating mark. Prince Fielder, though, he is another one who a lot of people have wanted for quite a while, pretty much since he retired. I'd be very excited for a Prince Fielder card. I think between Alfonso Soriano, Prince Fielder, and Lee Smith, you'd have 3 solid first inning options. But we'll see. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. Who are you wanting to see as your first inning henchman, first inning bosses? Do you guys have any? Maybe it's somebody that hasn't been released. I think what we're going to see is Hank Aaron as the overall reward, with Roberto Clemente as the National League. And I don't know about AL. Part of me wants to say Pedro, but I don't think they're going to put a pitcher in that. I think truly it's going to be somebody that that hasn't been released yet. So let me know down below who you guys think would be a good first inning boss. Who would you guys take out of these 3 if these were the 3? I know another one that I kind of thought about would be like Adley Rutschman, Wander Franco, and Jared Kelenic, but I don't believe that they are going to go with prospects right off the bat as a first inning, especially when you're bringing in all these new players. You want to go with some bigger names. These 3 are pretty big names. Maybe not Lee Smith. He's not the biggest name. But you can kind of interchange him with another pitcher. I do think it's going to be 2 position players and 1 pitcher. Now, starting pitcher or relief pitcher, I don't know, but I have a very big gut feeling that that's how they'll go. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video today, please hit like, hit subscribe. Anything you do helps the channel. Leave some comments down below. Let's get talking. We're almost here. The season is almost upon us. Thank you guys. Have a good one. I will see you next time.